What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings Podcast studio. I am very excited to be joined today by Brandon from M.O.N Comics. How you doing today, Brandon?
Hey, awesome, dude. It's Friday. Made it through another week. It was the first
Oh,
week
yeah.
after our vacation. Well, it was rough,
Oh,
but
you got to
this got me
readjust,
through it.
right?
Yeah, this got me through it. Looking forward to this at the end of the week.
Now, was it a staycation or did you actually go somewhere?
No, staycation. My family, as you probably tell from some of the stuff surrounding me, is big horror Halloween fan. So I take
Yeah.
a week off. Take a week off to spend the whole spooky season with my kids and do pumpkins
Oh,
and make
that's
cookies
awesome.
and just do
Very
everything
cool.
spooky.
Yeah, I like staycations these days. I don't know. I'm always somebody that likes to kind of hang out at home and call me boring, whatever, but I like to be amongst my collection and all my drawing stuff and all of that. Like traveling every now and again is fun, but I think if I had to pick one, I would prefer staycations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we pay so much to live where we live, right? Like, we're at
Right.
work most of the time or running errands. We don't get to enjoy it that much. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Now, I wanted to give you a chance to tell the audience that may not follow your channel yet. After this, they're definitely going to be following, but what does M.O.N Comics stand for? I'm privy to the inside info from talking before the podcast, but I wanted to give you a chance to describe that to the audience and where it came from.
so when I was thinking about starting a channel, I was trying to think of a name. And I mean, I'm up in the middle of nowhere, upstate New York. And so Mon was just an easy abbreviation, and comics I just
Yeah.
thought it had a good ring to it. So
I
we'll
figured
go
when
with
I
that.
saw the periods after each level, I'm like, okay, I know it's an abbreviation for something, but I have to ask him, well, for what?
You're one of the first to get that. Usually everyone's like, oh, it means monster. The guy's a monster nut. So that's
Mm.
just what, but no, it definitely is,
Now, I am already jealous by some of the books that are on the wall behind you, and I always tell the audience, you listen to the podcast, I always tell everybody you got to watch the video version because a lot of the people I have on have a lot of awesome stuff, and I'm spotting some ones I don't have yet that I really want. So, out of those ones on the wall, I'm assuming you got to have a couple of favorites. Are you able to pick one or two that really stand out to you as special?
Yeah, I mean, um, this one, Man Thing is my favorite character.
Oh yeah.
Um, so this is his first solo series. I loved Frank Brunner. I think he's an amazing artist and how he captured Man Thing. So
Yeah.
I got this as a 9.4 and it was signed by Frank Brunner. And then Roy Thomas was doing a signing. It's hard to see his signature,
Oh,
but
there
it
it
is
is.
down
Yeah.
there. So I
Yep.
sent it in as a 9.4 and I had it pressed by CDC and it came back a 9.6. So
That's a beautiful copy. Yeah.
yeah, thanks. That was a huge win for me. I do have his first appearance in Savage Tales 1. But that means a lot to me as well as probably I'm a big Daredevil fan too.
Oh yeah. There you go.
So Daredevil #1 is pretty important to me. It's like the biggest Silver Age book
Yeah.
I saved up for and flipped some other comics I did once. And I'm a total buy the book, not the grade. Usually like this one I got lucky with and it was
Yeah.
probably more affordable, but this one, the cover is detached. That's why it's a 1.0.
I
But
always say the same thing, man. I'm happy to have stuff that's in a lower grade just because it holds a lot of sentimental value for me and it's something that I love. So I'm not a grade snob when it comes to a book that I'm really looking to pick up.
yeah, dude, if it looks good to me, I mean, most of my stuff is complete. I think the first Silver Surfer in the FF48, I think that's missing part of a page. And
Okay.
that's why I got a 0.5, but it looks great otherwise. I mean, it's like, doesn't affect the story. It's
Yeah, that's
slabbed
the
anyways.
iconic John Buscema cover on that one,
Which one?
on the Silver Surfer.
Oh, no, I think that's Kirby.
Is that Kirby? Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah, Kirby,
Okay.
yeah,
I
Kirby
thought
and Lee.
Buscema did the cover and Kirby did the interiors on that one, but I may be wrong.
No, Kirby definitely did that cover.
Nice.
I can see it from down here. Yeah. Um, Huge Fantastic Four fan.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
um,
Kirby's amazing. A large part of my collection is Kirby Fantastic Four stuff. So I've been going back and trying to get as much of that stuff as I can. That's kind of my search when I go to a con, is finding old Kirby stuff for a good reasonable price, because some of it, as we get back into those early issues, it starts to get hard.
See, I was trying to, one of my goals for this year, or the past 2 years, really, I was going after the Kirby and Lee run for FF 1 through 102.
Yeah.
And I got about 62 in, and I'm actually about to pivot. I'm feeling, it would take me a long time. Like, there's a ton of key issues. Like, that's the first daunting part of
That's
it,
the
right? Is
thing,
that
yeah.
there's so many first appearances within that run, and I
Especially
gotta get my
now,
own.
where they're going with the movie and all of this, all that stuff is going to be going up. It already has, just with speculation and everything, and then the Doctor Doom news and all of that. Everybody, the speculation mark is driving everything up. Anything with Doom or Fantastic Four.
Big time, dude. Big time. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep the big keys. I'll keep 48, 49, and 50. 52 for the first Black Panther. 51 is a
Yeah.
great story about the Thing, him dealing with being with the Thing. I kept a lot of stuff, like
Yeah.
the Colossus Collector gifted me the first Black Bolt. I love Black Bolt. I think he's
Oh,
a cool
wow.
character.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm keeping a handful of them, but I'm just gonna pivot off because, like you said, with the spec, the movie's coming out, prices will only go up. FF1, FF4, FF5. I mean, I got 2 kids, I got a mortgage and stuff, and
Yeah.
like it would take
Can
me a while.
only
I could accomplish it.
can only justify so much, right?
Yeah, dude. Like it's just, and it became more of a task than an enjoyment, you
Right.
know. So I'm starting to pivot off, but I'll always love the Fantastic Four. But 40, 49 is like one of my favorite Silver Age covers with Galactus. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, the first appearance of Black Panther, and then that Thing run that you were talking about, those are some of my favorite ones that I have right now. Like, very special issues, First appearance of Black Panther for me, that was like, when I got that, I was so excited, man.
Dude, so was I. Mine has writing on it and stuff for 2.5, but I bought what I did. But man, you're making me
Yeah.
question it now, James. I gotta look at it. Yeah, it's Kirby and Sinnoh covering art.
Oh, I was looking at the other one. I was looking at the Silver
Oh, Silver
Surfer.
Surfer. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I
Is
got
that one?
this terrific column with the boys. So this was like
Okay.
my target to get.
Is that
When I'm
Buscema or?
It is Buscema.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Yeah, that's the one. Because I can't see your other one on this, the way
oh,
it's limiting the camera on the recording software. I can't see further than a certain point, so that's why
gotcha.
I didn't see the other one. Yeah.
Good idea. Sorry.
No,
This I
you're not
got.
at all. Look, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna drag this over, and then I can be even more jealous, because I think it'll let me see a little bit more than it is right now. Here, let me see. All right, let me see. Oh yeah, more jealous now.
I got this with the boys, and when I bought it, it was a Blue Label CGC 5.0, and
Oh
I
wow.
bought it. It was right after I had met your boy Ron Garney. Um,
Yes,
I had
Ron.
been it. Yeah, I had been in line all morning to meet him and Keanu, and I was so just disoriented from standing in line for 8 hours and
I can
tired.
imagine.
I had been up late, but I knew I wanted to go find this book, and I did. And when I got it, I bought it and I walked away. I knew what the book was and everything, the iconic cover, who worked on it, but it said John Buscema written in pen on the first page. And I was
Oh
like,
man,
what? So I opted to send it to CBCS, and it got verified as being a legit
that's
John Buscema.
amazing, man.
Yeah, I took high-res pictures of it before I
I,
sent it off.
I keep hearing more and more. Like, I always remind people, they didn't sign on the covers back then. There weren't Sharpies or anything. And also, it was kind of looked at as almost like disrespectful to sign on the cover. All the guys wanted to sign inside that first page. So it's like, if you got an old comic, you need to look, you need to flip that first page open. Even when you're going through like dollar bins and stuff, you just never know.
I've got my FF22. The first time the thing says it's clobbering time is
Nice.
signed by Stan Lee on the inside.
Yeah.
So, and it's 91. So that was like a time when they were doing that. Yeah.
I only had one instance of that, and it was back when I worked at the Spider's Web comic book shop, and they had some trade paperbacks on sale on the back shelf, and they had the stuff that McFarlane did on Batman. There was a trade of that, and I brought it home, and when I opened it up, he had signed on the inside and drawn the bat symbol. And I was like, holy
You got
cow.
the green mark and a signature
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
cost of a trade. That's
Yep.
fantastic. Yeah, they're out
A
there.
trade that was on sale at the time. I think I kept that to myself. I didn't clue them in.
I mean, I didn't even recognize it when I saw that until I walked away. And by
Yeah.
that time I went to take a nap. I was just so out of it. And but
You know, when I had West Coast Dave on here, he was telling me that that wasn't uncommon. That like I think other people found stuff in that comic shop that Todd had just signed and like put on the shelf or something when he would be in there for signings. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
West Coast Dave Angers, he's an amazing personality and person in our community too. I love him.
He's amazing, man. There's so many good people in this community. That's the thing. I've always known that because anytime my wife and I go to a con, you could just spark up a conversation with the random person next to you digging through the back issue bin and just hit it off and develop friendships and just automatically kind of have that common ground. So I'm seeing the same thing within this YouTube community and Instagram and all that. Like a lot of the people I enjoy following seem to be friends. So that's really cool.
Yeah, you put out your track that you put out there, right? And
yeah. And speaking
it's
of friends, Ryan, the Colossus collector, by the time this comes out, he'll see that piece of artwork in real life. He'll be surprised. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I noticed way back on one of the streams. So how I first got introduced to Ryan was actually watching a Christmas, like a holiday live stream that he was doing on his channel with Mike and everything. And I'm not sure, you might have been on that one too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So remember, well, obviously you're going to remember. I don't remember. So he got all you guys gifts, and it was like surprisingly like heartwarming and like possibly made me tear up a little bit seeing your guys' reactions to those gifts because they were so heartfelt and thought out. You could tell he really tried to get each one of you something that was special to you. And ever since then, I'm like, when I get the opportunity to do something special for Ryan, I want to do that. So this is my little thing that I'm going to do and surprise him.
He is the biggest teddy bear, and Christmas is his thing. Halloween is my thing. I do my special. Christmas is his thing. He does his special. And to say we were blown away by what he sent us, curated for what we love, plus really nice stuff.
Yeah.
It's an understatement to say we were blown away.
He really paid attention and internalized what he was hearing as far as your guys' tastes. And yeah, I think gift giving is Ryan's love language.
Yeah. And we have a group chat going. I know the Rollins told you in Colossus, they've told you we have a group chat going. The day after Halloween, Ryan posted the funniest little video short in our chat of him cooking on the TV and watching Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" and just starting to smile because
nice.
He knows he can bring it before Thanksgiving and not before Halloween.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's getting excited for it. He came down. He came to my house before Terrificon because he's in over by Niagara Falls, Toronto. Sorry. And so he came down to me and he stayed the night and we went to a local antique show.
Oh,
and
cool.
He drove down. He is just the nicest guy. He's just so awesome.
So I keep hearing he's a big dude. I gotta know, how big is this guy? Because I gotta size him up for if we meet.
He makes, I'm 6'3", 270. He makes me look small. But we're bigger dudes. We're not.
I'm 6'5", 320. So we'll have to see. Maybe we're in the ballpark with each other. Maybe I can get him to arm wrestle me for some comics or something.
Listen, Darnie didn't fashion the Berserker character in his art after me or Ryan. It's quite clear. I think he uses you as a template. After seeing you, I'm actually
That's
looking at
funny.
you and the cover of it right now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
This is the one him and Keanu signed, but
Yeah. You
we
know the
don't look
one
like you do.
you know the one that everybody tells me uh they're reminded of me when they see it is the shirtless bear fighter guy. That comic.
Zen- oh,
Yeah, there's a comic called like Shirtless Bear Fighter or whatever.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that
Hey,
for sure.
I'll take it, man. I take it all as a compliment. That's really funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm usually big in my circles, but he made me look small.
that's
But we were
awesome.
fine at a con. It was great. We're easy to, you can see above everyone. Usually the con, being tall
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. I find us big guys tend to be big softies and have big hearts. So I think it really makes sense how he enjoys, seeing others happy from his gifts. So that's neat. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything plays out this Christmas because I'm sure he's been planning for a very long time, knowing
Dude,
him.
did you see his X-Men 1 unboxing? The opening to his X-Men 1 unboxing?
Yeah.
With like the figures and Magneto. I'll show this community unboxing. I got chills just
Yeah.
saying it.
Crazy.
He's so inventive and good with his stuff. And
He really is.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to see what he brings to the table this year for sure.
Now we're definitely going to have to do an episode of Nerdy Musings with a bunch of you guys on here one of these times.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Separate table will come to dinner for sure.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to think, gosh, East Coast, like New York Comic Con's supposed to be pretty cool, right? Like what other cons are over there that, because I've wanted to do the New York one before. I don't know when it'll happen, but I got to think like when we're going to end up meeting up. Like I ended up surprisingly because Mike has relatives out on the West Coast. It was the funniest thing I think I talked about on the other episode. My wife and I are standing there digging and then I hear that voice and she heard it like, that sounds familiar. And look over and he's standing there and then Dan comes up and got to actually meet him in real life.
Yeah, Mike's 3 hours from me. He's not that far at all. So if there's anything like Terrificon was great because that's really close to all of us. The other big one is Heroes Con, which is down in North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas.
That's the one. That's the one that everybody was raving about how amazing it is for art and artists. So that's one I would really be into because
that's the one you want to go to. Yeah.
Yeah. When I go to cons, it's all to get art and look for comics. So like the one that. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. The one that what?
I was just gonna say the one that Mike was at here was down in Oregon, and that's the Rose City Comic Con. And this year they only had 10 comic book vendors, so it was like super disappointing because normally there's more, and I feel like more and more cons are becoming that way.
It's what you're gonna find in New York Comic Con. It's more of a pop culture. I went in 2014. My wife took me for my birthday 10 years ago. And it was tough. We went 2 days, and there were comics there, but it's definitely more of a pop culture.
Yeah,
and the prices were, big con prices. They, Terrificon and for one I hear about Heroes Con had really fair prices for books.
So those are ones to definitely put on the calendar if I end up making it out that way.
Right, do New York Comic Con once for the experience and to see, because it is really quite amazing what they bring in. When I was there, they had every Batman suit ever used.
We got to get you guys out this way.
Yeah, tell me about it. I used to go out. I've been to where are you? Washington or Oregon?
I'm in Washington State. Yeah,
I went to Oregon 2010 for the Goonies 25th anniversary.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a huge Goonies fan, so I went there. Yeah. I met a bunch of kind of same thing. Met a bunch of friends of the movie online. Back when the chat boards, we ran a bed and breakfast on Cannon Beach by Haystack Rock, and I fell in love. I fell in love with that area, and I went out again in 2015. It's amazing. Pacific Northwest. I lived in Texarkana, Alaska for a couple of years too.
Oh, okay.
I loved it out there. If I hadn't met my wife, I wouldn't have come this time.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here for sure. It's funny when people come here and they're like, "Oh, everything is so green and so lush. It's so beautiful." And I'm like, "You realize that's the trade-off when you have all the rain all the time, right? Like that's why it's so beautiful here." You got to have the seasons. You can't be constantly sun year round. Like, this is what you get when you have seasons, guys.
Yep, we're about to hit winter here, so I mean it's dark at 4:30,
And you guys
it's
get
tough.
some pretty, a lot of snow and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we're right in the snow belt for our area, so it's
Yeah.
we average 140 or so inches of snow a year,
Oh,
and
wow. Yeah. So, like, big time snow. See, that's what I'm into. I'm like, if it's going to snow, I want it to shut everything down and be like
oh, it does.
legitimate.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It's a lot. It's tough. It can be tough this time of year because of lack of sun and stuff. So
I imagine. Yeah. Here in Washington State, if it snows 2 or 3 inches, everything shuts down. They don't have
yeah,
the
I've heard that about the
infrastructure
south.
to
There, yeah,
deal
yeah.
deal with it, right? So it's just like, oh my God, everything. Like, I think last time it snowed, maybe a little over an inch, and it was really cold, and like all the schools shut down, and it was like, it
We call
was
that
pretty
Tuesday
nuts.
here. Yes.
Exactly, man. Yeah, yeah. So have you ever made it out to San Diego Comic-Con?
I haven't. I'd like to do it once just to put it on my bucket list. I know
Yeah.
there's other, you guys would probably know the better cons to like shop for comics and stuff.
Well,
And
San Diego, again, I think it's gone more that pop culture route. Like, it became a lot about the movies and stuff with Hall H and everybody wanting to get their properties seen and all of that. But just for the sheer spectacle of it, like, I think everybody should go at least once. Like, I got to go back in 2016, and it was amazing. Like, it was really cool. There were a lot of artists there. Artist Alley was really big. That's when I got to reconnect with Dan Fraga and everything. I hadn't seen him for many years, and that actually ended up being the first year he had come back and started doing cons again. So that was really
oh, nice.
cool.
Yeah.
I got to meet Kim Jung-gi and get drawing from him inside one of his sketchbooks, and got to hang out in real life with my friend Tom Nguyen, the inker. So it was a great experience overall, and I'm actually trying to coordinate my wife and I going to it next year. So we're gonna try, because I want her to get to experience it at least once in her life, because I think it's one of those things you got to be able to say that you've done it, you know.
For sure. That's what everyone says. Now, would you be able to get a press pass since you have a podcast? Like, how hard are they with that? I know
You
some
know what?
some cards are harder than
I never even thought of that angle. Maybe, but I
some.
actually
They like
have a
some
couple of
cons.
connections that told me if you want badges, we can get them for you, kind of thing, just like a friend thing. Um, Actually, the first year I went, oddly enough, was just on a whim. I literally was in California and didn't realize the con was happening that week. And it
That's
was
awesome.
like a couple-hour drive from where I was. And on a whim, I went on a jiu-jitsu forum for people who were sponsored by the same uniform brand that I am. And I was like, hey, does anybody have any connections with San Diego Comic-Con? And like, hour later, I get a message from a guy, and he's like, hey, you go to this link, you can get badges, and my friend works there, and gave me this private link. And just on a whim, me and this other dude who I had known through jujitsu, that I never met in real life, but I'd been friends with him online through our love of that gi brand, of the uniform brand. And then him and I both went together and got to hang out, and have been
That's so
friends ever
sick.
since, you know.
It's so sick. Like, some of you know.
Telling you, man, you just never know. You just put it out there into the universe, and
Shoot your shot, man. I'm all
what
about
can it
that.
hurt, right? The worst it could have been is like, oh, sorry, no, nobody has a connection. But
My dad taught me the worst thing you can ever hear is no. If you ask
yeah,
something, the worst you're gonna hear is no. That's it. So why
exactly.
not?
So when did your love of comics develop? Did it start from a young age, and when did you start collecting seriously?
So much like Rohan and Mike from 120, I was infatuated with the Marvel cards as a kid.
Okay.
The Impel set from 91 and
I just
92, and
found all of mine.
I heard you on that last one saying you
Yeah.
found them. I got mine,
I don't
white back.
know, like, I don't know anything about them, though. I don't know if I have any that are of value, so I'm gonna have to pick somebody's brain on which ones I need to pull out of there and sell so I can buy more comics.
Right. Yeah, Rohan would be the guy to talk to you about that. started looking at these characters. I knew about comics, but like those forced me to go to the comic rack and buy Spider-Man and
Yeah.
buy, X-Men or whatever I wanted to read. And I got into it, but I wasn't collecting. It wasn't until probably like 2009 I started collecting harder and building a collection. And it was pretty good. I had Avengers 1.
Oh,
It was
wow.
only like a CDC 2.0, but I have it. I had the first
Still.
Blade. I had first Blade, Team of Dracula 10. I had the first Sentinels. I was picking on first appearances. I always liked first
Nice.
appearances. And I acquired quite a collection, but in 2011, I started dating my wife. And I collected comics. I was with her for a while. And then when it was time to propose, I sold them to get the engagement ring. The old
I think that's a good
It
trade-off.
was a great move. It's probably get them
I
back
saw
someday.
I saw in your one of the things notable from your Instagram bio was that your wife is out of your league or something like that.
Oh, why
So
I'm married to a wife way out of my league.
sounds
Yeah,
like
and
you
that
made a good trade with
I did.
selling the comics.
Yeah, she's smart, she's beautiful, and she tolerates this. Like I'm in
I would get rid of all of it to be with my wife too. So I feel you on that. Yeah.
Yes, and I share her. She's a photographer, and she works out of her office at home. And
Oh,
we had
that's great.
we had two little girls eventually, and I had collecting rooms, and I eventually got shifted out of them, and she lets me share this corner of the office.
Oh, that's great.
And I keep it neat, nice and tidy and clean.
Yeah.
So got out of it back then, and then I was, fast forward, we got married in 2016. I was big into playing Magic the Gathering. I loved it. Scratched that problem solving and competitive itch in me.
Right.
And, and collecting, there was, finance involved in the cards. They had,
Dude,
they
that's
had
an
money value.
understatement because one of my jiu-jitsu students lived off of selling his collection for like 8 years or something. He made so much money because he had all the original ones that were super valuable. So when he needed money, he just sold them all and he lived off it for several years. I don't think people realize how valuable they are. Like even nowadays, I was talking to another jiu-jitsu practitioner. He goes and plays in tournaments still to this day. And he has a friend who's a high level player, and all he does is he places within, like, he said something crazy, like you don't even have to be in the top 3 to be given the like gift basket thing they give the players. And then he'll take all the decks out of there and go and resell them, take anything valuable. So even if he doesn't win the tournament, he's still making several grand just off the gift bags they give them when they enter the tournament.
He's probably talking top 8. I think you just have to make top 8.
Yeah,
and you
yep.
get
He said
prize pools.
like top 8, and you get that, and then his buddy just goes and like, how much will you give me for this?
Yeah, they're real easy to flip because it's a constantly played game, and I have quite a collection built up. And I was playing. I didn't get to play that much. Again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. The closest store is a half hour away. So if I was going to go play in a tournament with friends, it's an hour drive round trip plus the 3 or 4 hours I was there.
Yeah,
it would take a lot of time away from my house and my wife. And after I had kids, that was just not like an option.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I didn't like the way Hasbro was going with the company. They were just pumping out so many sets and forcing you to buy more to keep up with the meta that was out. So I said, you know what? I really miss collecting comics, and I think I'd rather do that. So I took probably about like $8,000 worth of Magic cards, and I dumped them, and that's what kickstarted me back into
There you go.
comics. And I haven't looked back. I just see them, putting out more and more sets, and they have this thing called the reserve list with cards they said they never reprint, and that's what keeps them valuable. But I can see the writing on the wall that I think they'll eventually do that, and it will just tank values. And comics, they reprint comics, but it doesn't affect the original price of these old comics,
That's the thing. The old comics, man, there were only so many made, and to find them in even decent shape, depending on how old you're collecting, like it's very special to find something in decent condition. That's like, for me, if I have a graded comic that's like a 3 or a 2.5, whatever, and it looks halfway decent, I'm like, dude, there was only so many of these made. The fact that it's in this good a shape is just a pure miracle, really, going through so many years. So, yeah, I think that's, a lot of people don't realize. And then it's funny because you contrast that with, people like myself that were around when Image was first out, and we were all buying 10 copies of all the first issues, and then thinking those were going to be the ones that are going to put us through college. And then it turns out
Wildcats one and stuff.
yeah, we don't understand. Yeah, now I have like reader copies of all that stuff on my spinner rack behind me on the other side. But yeah, we thought, oh man, I'm going to sell these when I get older and make a bunch of money. But didn't understand how it works. Like those millions upon millions of copies of those were made.
Yeah, I love the history of comics. That really intrigues me, and how they got here to where, from where they started to where we are now. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like the comic boom in the '90s, they printed millions of copies, whereas these older books, they weren't. First of all, the paper quality, and like the Strange Tales books and stuff, they're
Yeah.
10-cent funny books. They weren't
It
working to
didn't
make it
hold up.
last.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the blades, they never resharpened the blades on the stuff coming in the paper, so that's how you get marble chipping. And then forget about the kids that read through
Oh
them
yeah.
hundreds of times. So yeah, you exactly what you said, James. The fact that they even lasted to this point, in the '90s comics, yeah, we just didn't realize as kids, like, oh, the X-Men 1, I've
Yeah.
got X-Men 1 with Jim
Oh, I'm
Lee,
telling you, got so many
five,
copies of all of those.
so did 20 million other people.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, but you know what? That was such a special time to be alive during. Like, you see those guys, like all my favorite artists got together and started something and were doing their own books. And I think beyond that, for me, it was just the cool factor of all of that. Like all my top artists that I was already following on other books, now they're doing their own thing, and it was just the level of excitement. I don't think we've seen anything like that, and I don't know that we will see anything like that again.
Yeah, for sure. It was awesome to be a kid in the '90s, seeing that stuff on the rack, and
Yeah. Now, in modern times, like there have been a few, and I've talked about it here on the podcast, like Ghost Machine Productions. Like to me, that's kind of the closest we've come, but it doesn't have that level of excitement behind it. But it is a group of like very talented artists and writers getting together and doing their own thing, forming their own studio. So I've really been enjoying that. I've been enjoying what DC's been doing on this Absolute run. I think it's pretty unique, and I think it needs to shake things up a little bit, because we got like 30 different Batman titles coming out every week, but they're all just mediocre. So I'm interested to see where they go with this. Are you still reading comics, like current stuff, and looking at that type of stuff these days, or do you only collect the older stuff?
no, as a byproduct of starting YouTube, I had people start mentioning, like, oh, you love these horror stories, you love this, so you need to read something that's killing the children. You
Oh yeah,
need,
that was a
yeah,
great one.
yeah. And so like it really opened, like I was so, when I got back into it and looked at the old stuff, I love the old stuff. I love the artists. I'm going to, it's going to be passed down to my kids someday. Eventually, whatever
Yeah,
my collection becomes will become my kids, whether it's worth anything or not. They'll have something to remember me by. They can cash it in, whatever they want.
for sure.
But then I started, like I said, something killing the children I've been really into. And they had the graphic novel at my local library. So I take my girls to the library to read.
Oh
And I
nice.
was like, do you just have graphic comic novels? They're like, yeah, over here. And so they had volumes 1 through 6 of it. So I picked the first volume and I tore through it in the night. I was like, the art, the story, this is amazing. And so
Yeah,
I just picked up the other 6 volumes, and now I'm collecting the loose issues. And it really opened my eyes, and a lot of newer stuff is awesome.
yeah.
Even Boom Studios put out The Big Trouble in Little China,
Oh yeah, that
which
was great. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the movie, and I love that it
you
took
and me
off
both, man.
right from where the movie left off. I
Yeah.
could go back into Jack Burton's world. It was
That's
just
another one of
amazing.
those 80s cult classic movies that those of us who were around in watching that stuff were just like really hooked on. I remember another obscure one is Buckaroo Banzai. Did you ever get into that?
Across
They
the
made
eighth
a comic.
dimension.
Yeah, they made a
Oh
comic of
yeah,
that too. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, John
Yeah.
Lithgow was in that. They get cast in
I a-
that.
I actually have the old comic adaptation
Shut
of
up.
that. Like the
Oh my
magazine
god.
sized one of Buckaroo
And
Banzai, the
I
original.
gotta
Yeah.
get that. I gotta get that. That
Yeah.
yeah, my dad was a huge influence on, I was born in 1980.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so
you
you're
know,
only a few years younger than me.
Right. So growing up, my dad just influenced me with all 80s sci-fi,
Same.
mostly
Yeah.
sci-fi, except
Same.
Predator, Aliens,
Yeah.
Backroom Baghdad, Big Trouble in Little China, you name it from the 80s. I'm a pretty big movie guy too, and that just
Sounds
carried
like we
through.
had pretty similar. For me, it was my mom and my dad always was sci-fi and all of that stuff, all
And
those
I
kinds
loved
of
it too. It was
movies.
just my dad that was more like,
Yeah.
I'd come home at night from a football game, like, you want to watch Predator? Predator's on
Nice.
AMC,
Nice.
like, yeah. So yeah, so very similar to sounds like to you, James. And I would pick the
Yeah.
comic book. I have a Predator #1 and a 9.8, and the first Predator versus Batman, because I remember him
Oh
taking me to the
yeah.
comic. He took me to the comic store and seeing that comic was my middle mind exploded because I hadn't seen universes cross yet. And I was like, whoa, Batman
Yes.
can fight the Predator? This is
Yeah.
amazing.
I
So
don't
I
think
will,
uh I don't think people realize like how many times Marvel and DC crossed over with each other in the comics either. It's funny. I follow this Australian artist. Her name's I think it's I'm blanking on her last name. I think it's Danielle Weber, and she's us Australian mural painter. She does. You've probably seen her work. She did a big painting of The Rock when he did Black Adam, and she was like on the red carpet with him, and they showed him the painting and
I do
everything.
remember that. Yes.
So, yeah, she's on there and she's doing all this phenomenal work. And it was funny a couple weeks ago, I had messaged her. She's actually going to come on the podcast next year when things settle down for her. But she had posted this mural she did for the to surprise this family, and it was of the guy's two kids, and then it had all the different superheroes the kids liked, and it had Superman and Batman, but then it had like the Hulk and stuff. So she got flamed in all these comments of people being like, those characters would never be in the same scene together. They're from different universes. And then I got on there and she pinned my comment because I said, true comic book fans would know these characters have crossed over in the comics in the original source material. And she's like, yes, tell them, and pin my comment on it.
Never challenge the nerds. Never
Exactly,
challenge
man.
you better be damn sure what you're putting on the internet is true.
Well, and that's the thing I think, and it's a double-edged sword because it's very cool that so many people are into comic book stuff through the movies who don't have any knowledge about the comics. And so I could see people have just seen the movies. Yeah, they've never crossed over in the movies yet.
For sure. Yeah,
Yet.
absolutely. Yeah, when the movies came out, man, I remember producers saying like nerds were getting mad because it wasn't exact storylines. It's like we can't
Yeah.
cater to the everyday person that hasn't read these storylines and isn't going to get it. And so we
Exactly.
had to make it more digestible for the American public, but hopefully that brings them in to read the comics, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there are several rumors right now, including the fact that Disney is planning on crossing over the Marvel and Star Wars universes.
How could they do that? You're a big Star Wars fan too, right?
Galaxy far, far away. Different universes, different timelines. They've already done multiverse. Like, I mean, can you imagine Star-Lord showing up in some kind of Star Wars cantina scene or something silly like that?
Did you ever see Patton Oswalt, Parks and
Yes, I love
Rec's
it.
filibuster when he filibusters
Yes,
it and
it's
brings
the
them all
best.
together?
And literally, he gave away, like, he basically gave them the plot for the Boba Fett show that they did. He climbs out of the Sarlacc pit.
And there's a slave one, and it's
Yep.
you're a big
Was
Star Wars
lit-
fan, right?
Oh, huge, dude. I was born the year the first one came out. Yeah,
Got
there
a
you go.
Wampa.
Love
And
it.
Jedi was the first movie my parents took me to as a kid.
Nice.
So this was my dad passed away 3 years ago.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
thank you. But he got this for me.
Yeah, beautiful.
At an antique show. Still, yeah. It's
I
not
love
sealed,
it.
but it's mint in the box, and
Mine's not mint. It's in the
But it-
closet to the left of me. It's not mint, but it is in the box.
hey man, you got it. I mean, these things are getting gobbled up. They're not getting easier to find, you know?
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, my mom collected a lot of that, so I have a ton of stuff like that from Return of the Jedi mostly, but I think there's some Empire stuff in there. and I ended up buying a lot of the stuff when the first prequels came out and
Who
everything,
didn't? Who
just
didn't?
from nostalgia, you know. Yeah, Star Wars is a huge part of my life. That was like my number one sci-fi for me. My parents were into Star Trek and Star Wars, so I'm actually named after James T. Kirk. That's where they got James in the Bible, and James T. Kirk was the inspiration for my my name.
That's so sweet, man. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
my parents fueled those flames too, and Star Wars, just going with them to all the ones that came out, you
yeah.
know.
Sadly, I don't. So I was so little. Well, when the first one came out, my mom was pregnant with me when she saw it. And then
Still counts.
she took me to Empire Strikes Back, but I was so little I don't remember it. And then I do remember her taking me to Return of the Jedi. And she actually made me, from seeing, I don't know, way back in the day, seeing the trailer or seeing pictures in a magazine or something of Luke's black shirt that he had with the weird flipped over collar and all that. My mom actually made that for me. So when we went to it, I had that shirt on. I don't know if there's pictures of this anywhere or what, but I think I still have the shirt buried away somewhere. And yeah, totally cool. I guess I was an early adopter of cosplay
That is so cool. You
without
had
without realizing it. Yeah.
That's amazing. What a great mom. I was 3 when Jedi came out, and I just remember them taking me. And I mean, I was 3. It's crazy I was that young, but I remember specifically the car broke down. It was in the winter. Car broke down. We made it to the mall parking lot. My
Yeah.
dad told me and my mom to go in. I just remember vividly Jabba's cantina scene. And as a kid loving Monsters and Alien, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
That was those core memories, right? The ones that really stick with you even when you're little like that.
the 80s, bring your 3-year-old to Jedi. Who cares? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm such a big fan. I can find stuff I like about most of the new material. I have my gripes like anybody else, but at the end of the day, I think, and same with comic movies, people can nitpick them to death, especially those of us that know the source material. But just the fact that we have all this
I say the same darn
multimedia
thing.
of movie stuff, new movies, who would have ever thought there would have been like all these TV shows and cartoons and everything else. Like I try to remind myself of that whenever I think about complaining too hard about something they're doing. I'm like, yeah, but we
Right.
have all this cool stuff.
Yeah, you're so right, man. I was the same way nitpicking stuff. And it's like, you know what? The original 3 are still there. If that's all you
Yeah.
like, you can go watch them and nothing happened to them, you know?
Yeah, and for some people, the new ones are going to be that for them. And
Yeah,
they're a
that
little
seems like it.
kid, and they're going to grow up and they're going to be just a new generation of Star Wars fan. And you see that with the prequels now, because so many people who were kids when the prequels came out now grew up and are still huge Star Wars fans and love all of it and all of that. So yeah, I definitely think we have to put it into perspective when we start getting a little too gripey about it.
Yeah. We're some lucky nerds, you know? I mean, what
Definitely.
hobbies people could be into that doesn't get carried on, you know? Look at stamp collectors, you know? They
Yeah,
had this huge rise and nothing ever came into the zeitgeist that kept that going, you know? But Star
exactly.
Wars, Star Trek comics are forever, you know?
So what has you excited as far as just comic book movies, Star Wars, all of that kind of stuff? Anything coming up that you're particularly excited for? For me, the biggest thing right now is the Daredevil Reborn
Cool.
that they're
Yeah.
doing. Ron got to be on set when they were filming some of the scenes with his character that he created, the Muse, and he was like, James, he's like, I can't tell you how surreal it was, because he says it looked literally like they pulled it out of my brain and brought it into reality.
I'm so excited for Daredevil Born Again is I'm most
Born
anticipated. It
again, I
stinks.
called it reborn. Yeah, you got it.
Nice. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice you called it that because I was just so
all
excited to
good.
hear you telling that story.
Yeah,
It stinks till next year. However, yes, I started reading into Muse. I picked up his first appearance. I
yeah,
love Ron's art. I love Muse's whole what he is and how he does his thing. And I was
yes,
like, if they bring that to the screen, it's going to be some dark stuff, and I'm
yeah,
here for it. Charlie Cox, I got to meet him at Terrificon.
nice.
Wonderful guy. I think he is an amazing Daredevil, and that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to for that.
Yeah.
Star Wars, I just saw, I think, the trailer for Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, it's Goonies, man. It's
It's
Goonies in
Goonies
the
in
Star Wars
space.
universe. It's very
Yeah, let's do
80s
it.
vibes, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm really
Play
looking forward to that too.
pay me for my nostalgia, or let me pay for my nostalgia. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. Like, like
They
it'll
even
be
in
cool.
the latest trailer, they even dropped the "Watch out for booby traps" line. I'm like, dude, this is friggin' Goonies, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that too. I think that, having some kids do some stuff, and I know
yeah,
Boba Fett got hate.
dude,
And it
I
was like,
enjoyed it. I
dude, I got to
liked.
see him ride a Rancor.
Yeah, that's what my wife was saying because my wife, she's gotten into all this stuff through me. I'm very blessed that she's as excited to go to Comic Cons and dig through
My
back
wife too.
issues and so we're very lucky in that regard. And she was saying, like, she goes, I don't understand what people are so upset about, because she goes, in the original movies, you literally, this character had like 2 minutes of screen time, yet people have developed this whole, like, Boba Fett would never do that and this and that. Like, what I liked about the series, like, I had my gripes too. I thought the whole little bike gang chase scene looked really cheesy.
Right.
But aside from that, like, I enjoyed the backstory and kind of like they kind of humanized the Sand People and stuff. Like, I thought that was an interesting angle to take.
For sure. I love that. Having to fight a crate dragon and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, like, give it to me. Yeah, like, we had Boba Fett was so, like, everyone loved him because his design was so cool, right? But we didn't have much of them. So any expansion we get is fine. We got to see him get out of the
yeah.
Sarlacc pit. And Mandalorian, I absolutely love
Oh,
Mandalorian
me
too.
too. Yeah,
I really feel like that was okay. So I have my problems with, A Force Awakens and more so Last Jedi. Like
yeah.
when
Last
Luke,
Jedi, when he
he
tossed the
lightsaber
lightsaber
over
and
his. That's I had a
dude,
bad feeling about this.
felt
I
our
was like, wait a minute.
heartbreak, right?
I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And to carry
Did
that
you
on
did you hear did you hear what originally that scene was?
no.
Before Ryan Johnson asked, he basically, when Luke showed up at the end there, when she went to Octo and he was there, right? The way that what's his name? The way J.J. Abrams had that scene was when she went up, Luke is literally like levitating giant boulders and doing all this cool Force stuff and like training, practicing, and staying in tune with the Force. That's what the original scene was. And when Ryan Johnson knew kind of what he wanted to do, he begged J.J. Abrams, "Oh, don't put that scene that way, because I have plans."
People can make their arguments all they want for how that
Yeah,
movie is good, and that's fine. Like, if you liked it, whatever. But as a fan, for me, it just, Luke was abandoning everything he was about, and then he
yeah,
eventually died because he was tired.
yes,
And there's this great band on IG. Look them up, Lost Souls Movement,
okay.
and they do this song, and it's all about my childhood that became a lie when Luke Skywalker died from being
Oh
tired.
man,
It's a hardcore metal song,
yeah,
and I'll tell you what, you will work out, you will train to it, and it's just so
nice.
good. But what I'm wrapping this all around to is, in the Mandalorian, the second season, they finally gave us what we wanted to see. All we wanted to see after 30 years. They gave us a
Yes,
2-minute clip of Luke tearing through these
dude.
troopers and being what he was supposed to become.
Supposed to be, yes.
We were, after that, we were all like, thank you. Like,
Well, and
smoke
see,
if you
and
got
John Favreau and Dave Filoni get that, because they were us with the trilogy, with the original trilogy and everything, and those guys really get it. So I have to think they realized the mistake in the Last Jedi and in the newer movies, and we're like, okay, let's give the fans the version of Luke they really were hoping to see.
It felt so good, didn't it?
It did. Oh, I had tears, man. I teared up. I love watching the reaction videos, the
Yeah, oh,
compilations.
absolutely.
I go back every so often and watch
Me
that.
too. Me too. my wife was sitting next to him. Like you, my wife has embraced the nerddom. I mean, we went,
Yeah.
Iron Man came out in 2008. We started dating in 2011. So we started going to all the Marvel movies, all the Star Wars movies. She loves them
Yeah.
too. Our first date, she was like, "Do you want to get some Mexican food and go to Immortals?" And I'm like,
Nice.
"Yeah, you're on." So when that scene came on and she saw me basically like in tears, she's like, "I
Yeah.
get it. I get it."
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, because when she went
That's
to
so
Last Jedi
cool.
with me, she's like, "What's going on? Isn't he like a badass?" Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
Well, and this kind of segues well, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Daredevil Born Again show because I heard something on another podcast by somebody that has inside information on it, and basically has it on good authority that the reason it's taking so long for it to come out is they did like massive reshoots on it because it was essentially the way it was described was like a quirky it was Ally McBeal in a court drama, like cheesy humor and stuff. And essentially I don't know if they did some kind of screenings or something, and also realize kind of how things are shifting in the fandom, and you can only do so much of this stuff before you start losing people. And I guess they had the guy who did the fight coordinating on the first Daredevil, so on the Netflix series. He came in, he's also a director, like assistant director, and so he came in and took it over and like redid like 3/4 of it. And
Thank God.
now the form that it's in is like this R-rated hardcore, more like the original Netflix series. So that made me very hopeful that they were actually kind of listening to the fandom, like, hey, we don't like it when you do this and take this material we love to and try to make it into something different. Like, you have to have a little bit of fan service in there when you're these people messing with these properties. In my opinion, I think Disney is starting to recognize, as they see like they're losing subscribers on Disney Plus, and all these things are happening within the fandom. So I was very happy to hear that. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I'm glad we didn't get the Ally
Dodged a
McBeal
bullet
court.
there.
Yeah, court drama, cheese fest.
Yeah, no one wants. We want to see our heroes in action. We want to see
Yeah.
them taking out the bad guys. Gosh, or what podcast was that, James? What
Rob
channel?
Liefeld.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And he has a lot of friends in Hollywood because he
Yeah, I would
does
expect he does.
a lot of his properties have been picked up now and are being made into movies. And so I believe that that info is legitimate, or he wouldn't be saying it. So yeah, he said he's very happy because he knows that director and fight coordinator guy. And he's like, yeah, he came in and redid all most of it, and now it's like really badass and hardcore, and in my opinion, what Daredevil should be.
It needs to be. It totally, especially after how good the Netflix series was.
Yeah,
Um, it,
that hallway fight scene, like that extended cut, dude. Like, I still look back on that as one of the coolest fight scenes in any show or movie, even.
Yeah, there's stuff that lives in my watch list forever, and that's one of them. Like, I will just
Yeah,
keep out, something I want to go back to and watch. And
definitely.
it was so impressive. The choreography, the one shot down the hallway, one
Yeah,
continuous shot, and he's brutal. He is
yeah,
brutal.
exactly. Yeah,
Did
it's
they,
phenomenal.
does he, now you're jujitsu, right? You
Yeah.
practice jujitsu. Do they use any moves like grappling or any kind of
They do
techniques?
sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I'm always excited when they throw somebody in an armbar or something. Yeah,
I
yeah, they
wondered.
do.
I was like, if you're like the Leo
Yeah.
meme, seeing something it looks so good and so legit. You
Well,
gotta
and
think
here's the
it's
thing,
going.
man. Like, if jujitsu was incorporated more, like, a lot of the fight scenes would be a lot shorter, because you put somebody in a blood deprivating choke it takes like 5 to 7 seconds for them to go to sleep. Like, you would end the fight pretty quick, but that doesn't
Yeah,
always look cool when we want to
right.
see these cool punches and kicks and things and all of that. So yeah,
It's good to use a bit. Oh
John
God,
Wick has kind of been the best example of incorporating jujitsu and judo, and like he does a lot of like even using material to choke somebody, and all that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Keanu did a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training to prepare for that role, so he incorporated a lot of that in there, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, you can, like this, when he's rolling with people and throwing them and just twisting them around. I watched some MMA and I see that stuff and I'm like, yeah, they definitely pulled in the right people to say, make this look like what someone would do, if they were badass.
Yeah, and a lot of the fight coordinators and stuntmen are jiu-jitsu people most of the time. Like those guys cross-train in a little bit of everything to, be able to come to the set and put together an awesome fight scene. So now with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA being more prevalent, you're seeing more of that bleed over into the movies and TV series, which is, for me, is cool. Like you said, you could imagine I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, awesome. He actually did the thing.
as it should. Art imitates life, so you might as well do it right and make it, because if it looks hokey, it's not going to look good,
Exactly. Well, I'm noticing some original art, or what I perceive as original art, in the background. Are my eyes deceiving me, or is that correct?
Original art from a community member.
Oh, cool.
Bigby McFly, the comic guy.
Oh, okay. He does art?
Yes, he's a published artist. I forgot.
Oh man, I was just talking to him today. Yeah, he's getting himself scheduled to be on here. Yeah.
Super nice guy. So last year he did the hashtag comic book shout out, which was a community movement in which you would shout out a channel and say what you liked about the channel, gave information. It was like a growing the community thing.
Oh,
and
very
everyone
cool.
and everyone who did it got put into a prize pool at the end of the month. And if you got picked, he would draw whatever you wanted.
Oh man.
So I think I won his first month and he gave me Predator versus Man-Thing.
Wow. That's really good.
Yeah. He crushed it.
Nice.
And I was
he's very talented. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was like, dude, like that's
wow.
The Predator would, the Man-Thing, whatever he touches burns if it fears him. And Predator doesn't fear much of anything, so it's not burning. But he did a great job with that. I wish I had the money to get into original art. That's a whole different ball game than just buying comics. And
I just posted. I'm sure you saw. I posted a bunch of my Ryan Otley Invincible stuff.
So jealous you have that.
Earlier today.
So jealous. I'm so happy. I heard you talking to Rohan about it. And that was a series you were talking modern comics. That one blew my mind too. And then I got into the Amazon Prime show, and I love the art. And then I heard you have original art. And I was like just frothing at the mouth. You got it at the right time.
I'm lucky I got it when I did, because none of that stuff is affordable now. It was like I was telling somebody else, as soon as Ryan got on with Marvel and started drawing Spider-Man, I'm like, man, I'm not going to be able to afford any of his, or let me put it a different way. I'm not going to be able to justify purchasing as much original art from him anymore, because it's cool to see him become super successful and see Invincible be picked up for that Amazon series, and Ryan just his career just blow up like it has as a result. So I'm happy that I can't justify affording it now, because it's cool to see that guy be doing so well. Because some of the pages I picked up back then, like way back then, you could get a really cool page for $150-$200. And now, but that's nothing, man. People have told me about like getting Jack Kirby pages for like $5 and stuff way back in the day. So I'm just like, man, I guess all generations have dealt with this type of thing.
Right place, right time, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you had the foresight that someone that appreciates it like you do owns it. It's not someone who's rich. And I guess my thinking is like, okay, some rich guy sees the Invincible show and is like bids on a piece in heritage, and
Right, right.
buys it and likes it, but do they have an appreciation like you do that like really
Yeah.
reads the comics and loves the art? Like,
Read the comic, and Ryan's been one of my favorite, probably in my top 5 favorite artists. Like since I first saw his work way back in the day, there was a forum where artists got together called Digital Webbing, and there was a lot of aspiring artists. Like Ryan Stegman was
heard
on
you talking
there.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Otley was on there, and all of that. A bunch of other people who are now pros and at Marvel or DC, and I would get on there and chat and hang out with those guys and build those relationships. But yeah, I became a huge fan of his stuff back then. So early in his career, if I saw him at a con, like he would bring all his pages. Like that was before they had art reps and all of this. Like because half the time now he doesn't really even bring anything with him. It's all handled through his art rep, and yeah, I just stand there and drool over that stuff, all the big folders full of it, and pick up a piece here or there, and definitely stuff that I did not purchase with the intention of ever wanting to resell or anything. It was just because I love his art so much.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me to find out that like, I mean, Rohan interviewed a guy who he's like the agent for two, I think it's two
Yeah.
Italian artists, Simone, I can't remember their
Oh
names.
yeah, yeah. Bianchi. Yeah,
He's,
Simone
yeah,
Bianchi.
just
Yeah.
really wonderful, talented artists, and they just they have someone that deals with their art. I think that's awesome and
Yeah, and
incredible,
it's very
and
smart, right? When they get to
no,
the
for
point in their
sure.
career where it's worth that much, and you need to have somebody with your best interest in mind looking after that stuff. But yeah, did I ever tell on any of the episodes? I probably did my Robert Kirkman story in regard to the Invincible original art.
I think so. Refresh my mind. I think you did, but I love
So
hearing stories.
so Otley reached out to me not several months ago, not too long ago, on Instagram, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Has Robert Kirkman reached out to you?" And I go, "No," and I'm like thinking to myself, and I told him, I go, "Even if he did, I probably would think it was somebody pranking me." So I go, "But no, I haven't received any message or email." And he's like, "Oh, he wants one of the pages that you have." And framed in our bathroom is the page from when Mark is in space and he eats the alien food and he's on the
Yes, it's on
toilet.
toilet.
So Kirkman wants that page. So I told Ryan, I'm like, "Hey, I'm not looking to sell anything, but tell him to reach out to me because if the price is right, I might be willing to." But that happens to be my wife's favorite page too. So being that it's her favorite page, I don't know that I could. The number would have to be pretty astronomical for me to want to let go of it. I'll say that.
Now let me ask you this: what if he had an equally as impressive or cool piece he was willing to trade you?
It would have to be like a Jack Kirby or something like that. Like it would need to be something of that caliber that I know I wouldn't be able to acquire by my own means, like something very rare and probably astronomically expensive. Then I would maybe consider it.
Okay, so in that vein, if he paid you the price you set, would you go buy a piece of Jack Kirby art or something you really wanted to make up for it to justify it?
Honestly, I would probably put it in savings.
Right.
I'm kind of one of those
You're
guys.
doing the
I
right
mean, I
thing.
would,
Hey, man.
yeah, I would have to deliberate and talk to my wife and all of that. Like I always run past her. Like she lets me do pretty much whatever I want to do. And in regard, when I say lets me do, I mean she supports. Like if there's something that I'm wanting to acquire, she knows I'm not going to do anything silly or like put us in financial risk to get something or anything like that. So
Yeah, I gotta work a lot
she
of overtime if I want stuff. Yeah.
she supports it and knows that I'm not just being frivolous or anything like that. So, but we always any big purchases, I always, or if she has a big purchase, we run it back and forth with each other and make sure that we're both on the same page with it. So, I think that's important. I think that's no secret when somebody's been married for a very long time, like communication is a big part of that. So, little pro tip for any younger married couples that are listening, like, don't just go out and buy a car or something without talking to your significant other first.
But definitely be a proponent of her trips to Target if it might help you pick up a couple books on the way there.
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
not, you know, like, hey, I'm going
Yeah.
down to the comic store, honey. I just need the bags and boards, you know?
Exactly. Oh, but they had this Jack Kirby issue I needed.
I showed her Invincible. I sat her down and showed her the first episode. And I
Yeah,
just was
Amy,
waiting.
my wife Amy, she's read all the comics.
My
And
wife
that
won't
was,
read them really, but she'll watch the
yeah,
show. But if she
yeah,
started, you know, it starts off, it's like a regular superhero story, and I just
yeah.
watched her as the end, Kate.
Oh yeah, you
And
knew
her
what was going to
face just
happen.
dropped. And
And
she's
they
like,
did it way
what's up,
earlier
dude?
in the show than they did in the comics because there was a lot of build up. Yeah, which
Yeah.
I'll say that with that, I thought it worked very well the way they differed the show from the source material. Like I
Yeah,
was cool with that.
Yeah, if you want to draw people in right away, that's one hell of a way to do it.
Yeah, and Kirkman's heavily involved with the show, so he even said like, yeah, we're changing some things around and all that, but none of it took me out of it, even though I like, wait, that's different than the comics, but it was still cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great show, great property.
Definitely.
It is one of the bigger modern things too. That like, well, I say modern, but it was 2004 that originally came out, right? It is still
Yeah.
modern, but that's 20 years ago now.
20 years ago. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I know. I picked up when I fell in love with that series and said I wanted to get two graded books to like really show my love for it or like that was special to me. So I got 16. So the
beautiful.
first appearance of Angstrom Levy.
Yep.
And you start looking at these with such low print runs. There's not a ton of the census, man. I was like, what? There's not. And then I love Monster Girl because she reminds me of my kids, and I thought it was a cool character concept. So these were the two Invincible books that I picked up.
You got a leg up on me. I do not have any graded Invincible books yet.
Dude, my comic shop, these are like less than 140.
That's
piece,
crazy.
Like, so
even after the animated series?
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
that's
how are these still cheap? Yeah. So I started looking at print runs. I started deep diving into it. And I'm like,
you shouldn't have told me that, Brandon.
My comic shop, great place. Yeah. So
now, I almost reached for my phone to check what they're going for online.
I thought that was a steal for something that's so culturally significant in the modern comic world.
Yeah. And I think it's only going to get bigger.
I think so too. I saw them as a good long term, and I love everything about it. I thought Monster Girl's, the whole idea of her getting younger every time she uses her power.
So unique, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love the characters, man. They're such good characters.
I don't have any inside knowledge, but I would not be surprised if we didn't see Kirkman do something related to Invincible and potentially Ryan as well in comics again. I know
that'd be great.
Ryan can't say anything, but last time I talked to him, he is working on something creator owned. That was like all he could say. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised with those guys and how close they are if they either didn't come up with a new creator owned series that they're going to do at Image or potentially something Invincible, which I would totally be on board. Because if you notice, Ryan, 98.9% of his Instagram posts, that it's all Invincible stuff.
Yeah.
Constantly. He's either posting old stuff that he did, or like you can tell how much love he has. Like he was on that series for so long. Like he's one of the few, what I always call a modern artist who had a long run on a book. Like you don't see that anymore in modern comics.
You don't. And the sketch that Rohan got from him was just amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, you want blood? He's like, yeah, I want blood. Yeah. I'm so glad I got into modern comics too. I'm so glad that I appreciated them and got in my comfort zone.
Yeah, I took a little break when my comic book shop that I loved went out of business, and I was real close with the owner and the people there, and like I was at the guy's wedding and stuff, so like we were really close. You see people every week, you hang out, and
Yeah.
so I took a long hiatus, probably well over 10 years of not collecting, and then actually through Liefeld's podcast kind of sparked a interest again, and him constantly raving about Jack Kirby and how great the old Jack Kirby stuff was gave me a whole new appreciation for that, and just got the ball rolling and got me collecting again. And the love never went away, but it was,
Right.
it just took that little spark to set it back off again.
Collectors, I feel, no matter what you collect, you start out with this passion for it. You might take a little break, but you'll come back to it.
Yeah,
You'll come back
very
to
true.
it, and you find it again, and you're like, "This is great. This is awesome."
Yeah. Well, Brandon, you're all the way over there on the East Coast. I know it's got to be getting late for you. I'm a night owl, so what's late for you and me might be the same. It might be different. I'm a go to bed at 1:30 in the morning, 2 in the morning on average kind of guy. You with your day-to-day job might not have the flexibility mine does. With being a full-time jiu-jitsu instructor and owning your own business, you kind of you set your own schedule. But I want to give you a chance to let everybody know the best places that they should be following you online. Tell them a little more about your channel and what they can see on there and how to get there and all that type of stuff. The stage is yours, my friend. Close everybody out with that info.
So it's pretty simple. M.O.N Comics on YouTube as well as Instagram. I post stuff in my collection on Instagram and also use it as a way to let people know what I've got coming up for shows. My channel my inspiration was Mike from Lunch Money Comics, because he always went out and hunted a lot of comics and
Yeah.
had stuff very close to him, and I didn't. So I was like, there's got to be someone like me in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have that. So maybe I can go online and I'll find good reputable sellers and I'll vet them. And then I'll talk about them. I'll do unboxings and tell people where I got these books from, so that they can then go and have a source to go buy books from without having to worry about getting scammed or I'll do the homework for
Yeah.
them. And then I'll grow my collection. So that's the way my channel's been going, and I'll be 2 years in January. But
Oh, that's
today I actually
amazing.
thank you. Yeah, it doesn't seem that way. But today I posted my first video in which I'm kind of taking a whole different direction of which any books I get in, and I'm going to do for my channel, but I'm going to do more deep dives where I will open up the books and I'll show the splash pages and talk about the art or the story.
Oh, that's
And
awesome. I'm going to be
and
on
be
board with that for
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah, I want to be more of an educational channel. I want to do the
Cool.
research and learn. I love learning. I love learning about these books and where the heroes and where they came from and stuff that most people don't know. So I want to be more of an educational channel. So that first video dropped today. I'm actually really
Awesome.
happy with the performance. I think I'm up to over 400 views since this
Oh,
morning.
wow. That's great. Yeah.
So for my channel, that's great. Like I got 1,700 subs. Like if I'm hitting like a quarter or half, my subs, because
Oh,
not
yeah.
everyone can watch everything. So that's where my channel is going. Unboxings are fun and stuff, but it's expensive to keep doing that just to have content. So I'm going to start digging through books in my collection. Next week, I'm going to feature a couple monsters and go through those books and just show people what's inside. Everyone can you see a lot of channels that get books and they show the cover and this is what it is. And that's awesome and cool. But let's go inside the books and see what's going on.
Yeah,
So that's
give people be a gateway to giving people an even deeper look into the books, and educate them a little bit on the process and the art. Give them a new appreciation for the book that they may not otherwise have. Right?
absolutely. And then I also do, I was talking to you backstage where we started a once a month show called the M.O.N Comics Big Five Live. And that's where I invite 4 other creators from anything, YouTube, podcasts, they're into comics, and I bring them on, ask them to bring 5 books just to show, and they're there to stoke that comic conversation. So
Nice.
next week, I'm doing one with Rohan and JP. And then my friends Josh and his father-in-law, Bob, who actually have a podcast called the Comic Room Podcast. It's
Okay.
him and his father-in-law, and they collect
Oh, that's
together. And
amazing.
it's awesome. They're so good. So they're coming on next week, and we're going to hang out. And this is my 14th episode. So I've been doing it
Wow.
I do it once a month because it takes time to coordinate and get 4
Yeah,
people.
totally.
on the same page, so I can only do it once a month. So I really have a
Yeah.
lot of fun with it. It was my way to do some community building and bring awareness to channels that maybe some people didn't know about and just kind of spread the love because people have been so good to me in this community. And thanks to meeting you through Ryan and Rohan. I'm so grateful to been on your
Oh
show. This was
man.
a blast, man.
I had so much fun. I could keep you on here for way too long. We barely scratched the surface. So I would say this, I definitely love to have you back on here. And if you ever need somebody who has a deep understanding of art and the artists and little behind the scenes thing when it comes to process and all of that type of stuff, depending on the artist that you're doing one of those breakdowns on a book, if you'd ever like to collaborate on that, that might be fun. And I'd just love to have you back on and keep this connection and keep having fun with comics together.
Let's do it, dude. I'm so pumped. This was great. I'm so excited we did this.
Awesome, brother. Well, listen, I am going to give my little spiel and tell everybody why they should subscribe and where they can find us, and hopefully share with their friends. So, everybody, I always say this at the end of every podcast. You can find the video version on youtube.com/@Nerdy Mewzings is spelled weirdly. It's Mewzings. The video version, man, most people that are on here have either cool comics behind them or they're an artist, a professional artist showing off artwork and things that they've done. So I always highly recommend checking out the video version when you can. Subscribe or a like would be amazing. A comment, any of that stuff helps. And on any audio podcast platform of your preference, you can probably find us, Spotify, Apple, all the different ones out there. Wherever you want to hear us, just put in Nerdy Mewzings and we should show up there. In the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy. Make sure you go follow Brandon and M.O.N Comics. I'm going to hit the outro, Brandon. Hang out with me here for a moment. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you.